Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your time. And as mentioned, we have a couple of presenters for you from our membership that are going to be walking through a couple of aspects of their return to hockey plans. So we're excited to have them share some of their best practices through this process with you. And the first group that's going to be joining us is Meadow Ridge Barracudas, the Female Minor Hockey Association out of the Lower Mainland. Their president, Derrick Crowe, and he's just going to join us online here to share some of his findings through the return to hockey plan process in regards to building their safety plan, their return to hockey guidelines, and the various relationships and partnerships that they need to forge in order to move forward through this process. So we're going to just check to make sure that Derrick is available and pass it along to him, and he'll share his findings with you.
Hi, Sean. It's actually Garrett MacDonald. So I'm not to cause a little bit, but Derrick is our vice president, and I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but I'm the president. So I'm going to run through this if that's okay. As I have got a little bit. So first of all, thanks very much. Can everyone hear me, or Sean, can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, again, my name's Garrett MacDonald. We transitioned this year. Pretty much a whole new executive came in at our AGM. We had Liam, who was our president for the last 5 or 6 years, and so it was a real great year to take over. So it's been a learning curve. But just in regards to kind of how we got through things, obviously a very unusual and difficult situation for all of us. So when COVID hit and we started to try to get back and deal with the association, I think the first thing that we did is we created a small user group with our risk manager, our vice president, our head coach, and myself. Obviously, things changing quite rapidly and tons of information coming out. Our biggest thing is we tried to collect as much data as we could. So via Sport, Hockey Canada, BC Hockey. And I also do really want to say thank you to the membership who shared documents quickly. And that was a big piece. We took a lot of information from other associations, and truly thank you for your such a collective sharing from that piece. After we had all that information, we started kind of going through just some of the risks, some of our controls, and then getting the BC Hockey template and how we could add that risk and controls into that document. A big thing that we thought was important is obviously a lot of parents, a lot of questions. So our messaging to our association was to be real factual, keep the scope tight, and try to stop as many what ifs that we could through our own association. We met with, we had a very good open relationship. I'm friends with Dale Lupel, who's the president of our boys association out here. And we thought it was critical that our two documents are returned to plays because we have parents, both with females and males in both associations, that our documents are in, that we collaborated together, and that those were, pretty much identical. So the communications between them and us sharing information back and forth was excellent. And then from there, our communication with the rinks, both Pitt Meadows, we got 2 rinks out here, Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge, dealing with their staff directly, which they were excellent to deal with. So it was really good to be all on the same page and didn't have really any resistance of just how can we open up safely. We also then, I spoke with our elected officials, both in Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge, to see how, they were dealing with it, and what were they going to need from us to make sure that they were on the same page, or we were following their guidelines from that piece. We then ended up with we created a working document, return to play. This year, it was important that we actually expanded our executive this year and try to help pass out more responsibility or divvy up the tasks. So we had a bigger board. So going through that, it was important that we tried to keep the scope tight when we were discussing it with our board. So again, just to prevent so many what ifs and how many, just getting too many opinions, right? And I think the big thing was that we really need to be flexible, and that this was just the beginning of the working document to kind of get things started. We got it, our board obviously passed it and then sent the communication through our membership. So I think we got a lot of positive feedback from our membership that, we communicated well with them, and still being that, things are going to change or could change depending as we move forward. So as from that standpoint, we're still at basically our ice sessions. We've gone down to 45-minute, 50-minute ice sessions. We will, it looks like we won't lose ice slots. It'll give enough time in between ice sessions to get the proper cleaning and some of the protocols that the rinks need to have different teams come in and out properly, which each facility that we've gone is we're going to have 40 persons facility, which that includes your coaches, players. So say 17, 18 players, 2 coaches, and then 1 parent basically per group, per family. The rink staff is going to be have individuals on site to help us manage or make sure we're in compliance with that, and then we will also have someone from our association liaise with that individual to make sure that our coaches and everybody's on board, or if there's issues that come up. We start summer camp at the end of August, which will kind of be rust, get rid of the rust, and see how we start the process or start our season with that. And I think a big kind of mindset now is where we're as an association is we've been talking about setting up a video messaging to our parent group to try to set the tone and the expectations of really the importance of just getting the kids back to the rink. We've, obviously with COVID and how we're doing, the social or the psychological impact of our kids, that where the physical interaction needs to be decreased, but really the social connections need to be increased. So how important it is that just being able to get them to the rink and have some type of hockey and play and how that moves forward throughout the season is critical. So we're going to end up probably doing a video message to help set the tone and the expectations of our parents moving forward. So I think overall our community, from our elected officials to our rinks to both the Boys Hockey Association and the other user groups, have been excellent. And as hard as it has been to try to coordinate it, we're ready to go in September and move forward. And so I didn't want to take up too much time, but that's really kind of the process that we went through. And that's as much as I got to say. So.
All right. Well, Garrett, thank you very much. Really appreciate you sharing the process you went through. And while everybody's going through their own process around the province, I think it's beneficial to hear from a fellow member what had occurred. I think there's a couple of important highlights that you touched on that speak to the uniqueness that everybody has to deal with their own membership. The communication process that you had, not only with the members of your board, and knowing that many boards see turnover like you have and have to embrace things that are unexpected like COVID-19, but that keeping things, as you said, tight or simple as possible through the process to keep consistency, I think is really important. The partnerships that you mentioned with the elected officials, neighboring associations. As a female association, having that close relationship with the integrated association in your area, I think is not entirely different than a lot of scenarios that other members are dealing with about the collaboration piece. That collaboration is more important than ever, and it's just been very positive to see the process you've gone through, hopefully used as an example for some associations that may see some similarities in what they're going through, as well as other members that see in practice what members are doing to prepare for the season. We've been sending a message of knowing that the season isn't going to start the same or necessarily on the same timeline for everybody, but hopefully resources that have come out from Hockey Canada, the template that we had developed here for BC Hockey members has helped everybody individually go through that process for themselves. So thank you for your sharing here. I know it's appreciated by the other members. And speaking of—
Any questions, Sean? As I should ask that if there's any questions that we have for us. So. Okay, good.
No, good. In that you probably covered everything everyone needed to hear, and your mention of other members is our good segue here to another group within the membership that is going to share with us today. Sunshine Coast, their president, Stuart Frizzell, has been going through the process with us, sharing what they've gone through. Again, unique scenario there, knowing that all members have unique aspects of their return to hockey plans, but Sunshine Coast being a smaller sized association in somewhat of a isolated area for access to partner members, have a lot of similarities to some of our other members in remote areas or in lower populations, but the plan that they put together has been done very well, and we're going to have them share here momentarily and sort of speak to the process they went through as well in collaborating and generating their plan and looking at hockey as an approach overall as a benefit to their community coming out of the COVID-19 crisis. So pass it over to Stuart and to Kate Turner as well, who will be assisting him with the presentation, and just do a check here to make sure that Stuart's ready to go.
Thank you, and hello to all the fellow champions of minor hockey that are online here today. When we're asked to share some of the work that we've been doing with the rest of the branch, we're happy to have the opportunity to contribute, and hopefully some part of our story will help others. The pandemic turned our world upside down, and the effects are far from over. But the adage, we're all in this together, has certainly been embraced by the hockey community. The collaboration, the sharing of information, and all the support that we've seen has really been fantastic. The documents from out of Hockey Canada and even looking through the Skate Canada documents and the BC Hockey, the VS Sport support has all helped us to develop our local plan. So, really the teamwork is going to go a long ways to getting us all through this. Now, to collaboration, we've long been well supported by our district and have worked with other minor hockey associations before, but these last few months, it's been a whole new level of cooperation. Pacific Coast associations have been meeting via teleconference every week with return to play resources and information shared freely among us. Been super helpful. We've also seen increased collaboration with other sports groups within our community. There is a long-standing idea of forming a local youth sports council to advocate for the needs of sport and recreation programs for our youngsters. It's been brought forward in the past, but its purpose has really been highlighted by the challenges we're facing here today. Over the past several years, we have invested in our relationship with the municipal governments through regular communication. That is proving right now to be a very valuable investment. Maintaining steady contact with our members throughout has helped to keep them engaged and understanding that we will return to our game. Now, we incorporated COVID-19 questions into our annual membership survey, and that really helped us understand the wants and the needs of our members. And when we released our registration, when we opened registration up, the demand proved that our families were ready to return. We had a great response for the membership. Now, as minor hockey associations, we all represent our communities and the needs of everyone in them. Health benefits and activities of activity and interaction have been well documented for decades, but the story really needs to be retold, and we are in the place to do that right now. The reach of our programs go far beyond the physical fitness of players, and the value added to society by community sports programs really needs to be recognized. Mental health, as we know, is tied closely to activity, and social health is improved by interaction. The isolation that we've had to endure during this COVID the last few months has been really difficult on our kids. We see that. And the longer it lasts, the more they're going to be affected. Sometimes you don't really appreciate something until it's lost, but 4 months without rich nourishment of sport is more than enough of a sample size. We need to do our return to hockey safely and correctly, but we need to get it done across the province. And however it may look in terms of format and scheduling, we need to do it soon. Now, I'm not sure if Kate has had success with our, yes, she has, and she's even caught up to the social isolation piece. Now, our next slide here, one of the items we got asked to do was to run through all of the steps that we've gone through this last spring, which is usually, June, July, usually maybe less busy than the other months of the year, but as you can see, we've had to hit a lot of different spots in our return to play, and really the last week has been a big change since we started preparing this presentation till today. And I'll just run through some of the items that the steps that we've gone through so far. You'll see that the boxes are grouped in focus areas, but I'm going to run through them in chronological order just to give you an idea of just sort of the bullet points of what we've been through here. We laid out our survey to get an idea of how our members were affected by COVID, what their level of comfort was, and importantly, what their desire was to return. It seemed early on that there was rumors floating around that people wouldn't want to return. The Pacific Coast meetings were huge, and we maintained regular contact with the facility staff, our rink staff, requested support from our MLA for clarity around gaming grant, seeing that was a worry. We gathered information about return to play plans like all associations have, made use of those great documents. We established a weekly schedule early on for communicating with our members, attended the BC Hockey and the Via Sport video conferences. We arranged a visit for our arena staff to go to an operating facility and shared the information that we had access to through the Pacific Coast webinars, shared that with our arena staff, and it really helped us to link what our plan was with the facility plans. So when we presented, they presented well together. They were synchronized. We reached out to our council early so that they knew the work that was underway, and then we continued to work on our protocol, including identifying the key roles, key among them really was that communication officer that would orient people and provide information as the details about health details came out. We were lucky enough to have our communication officer is a registered nurse and very active in community health, so that helped us out a lot. And so we did identify all those key roles and got them put together. We registration opened on June 1st, and the response was very strong. We made a request to appear as a delegation alongside the skating club, our local figure skating club. We appear as delegation to the regional district who controls all our rec facilities, and forwarded our plan to the medical health officer, who reviewed it and gave us a lot of positive feedback. Really, it was really helpful to involve the health officer up front. On July 9th, we presented to the regional district council, which was the presentation that Sean had put up there earlier. Our three messages there were that we're interested, that we are ready, as evidenced by our safety plan, and that the community needs it. And we really hit hard on the health benefits of opening facilities. Staff indicated following that they were ready to go for an August 4th opening, and that was all we were preparing ourselves to respond to that. They just needed on the July the 23rd was when the council would give them the official go-ahead to reopen the plant and open up the facilities. Now, what happened between in that time, the staff did submit a report with their plan, their safe opening plan, and their recommendation to reopen our facilities. And our board of directors, kind of a little bit quite to our surprise, turned around and passed a motion to not only delay reopening for a month, but to only open half the facilities. And that is all rec facilities across us. It was a real huge blow that we were dealt last week. And they did it strictly not for safety reasons, but for financial reasons. The final decision for that's going to be made this Thursday. So this last week, we have been extremely busy. We've shifted our focus entirely to securing ice, and we've called our membership into action, and we've asked many people for support. We haven't been shy about asking for help, because this is a very, very major and troubling trend, like we saw in Prince George when they announced indefinite closures. We created a resource page with multiple avenues for our members and community to lobby, and reached out to the other sports in the community, engaging the media with our two local newspapers, radio station, and a big social media campaign. And last night we held a town hall style webinar for our membership. So that's kind of been the focus of our last week. We were happy late last night to hear the news from Prince George that they had made some progress with the reopening of 3 of their ice rinks last night. But moreover, the trend to curtail community recreation as a cost-saving measure is really a serious threat to making sports available to everyone. And so that is that's where our focus and our battle is right now, is defending the use of tax dollars to keep these facilities open. And every town where we gain ground on that will be better for everyone. So that's where we're at.
Stuart, thank you very much. And Kate has graciously shared in the chat a link to that presentation for the visual aids that we weren't able to link up at the beginning there with Stuart's opening a couple of points of the presentation. So thank you both, and thank you to your association for the work being done. I think there's a lot of components there, as you've described, that to no matter how amount of planning, it's a fluid and unpredictable scenario, and things occur, and that you've dealt with a lot of things that we're hearing from other members in regards to dealing with facilities, local governments, not only just safety now being the consideration, but local fiscal responsibility and budgets. And really your plan in place is, I think, strengthening the approach to still bringing hockey back on whatever timeline that ends up being. So we can open here if there is a question or two very briefly here for Stuart on follow-up. Otherwise, also we, as mentioned, their presentation is in the chat function as well. And if there are no questions there, we're going to move to our next member presenter. So again, thank you to Sunshine Coast for sharing. And we're going to move to Williams Lake. Williams Lake Minor Hockey has put together a screening process document that we'll have shared here momentarily. Joanne Davies is joining us from Williams Lake Minor Hockey, and it's a tool that we've come across that we think is a good example of what can be done at the local level to help in the pre-activity phase of just making sure that day-to-day programming and delivering of programming has the appropriate contact tracing mechanisms and equipment basically in place for our teams and managers to track their participants. So we're just going to check to make sure that we have Joanne available and online, and Joanne will pass it along to you. Let me know if you need me to share document on screen.
Okay, I'll see. It looks like it works. So like everybody, part of our return to play plan was mandatory screening. We've thought about putting a few managers to every team, but then decided that there had to be something that wasn't just verbal and trackable by not only the team manager, but also the administration. So we have, I can actually, I'm just going to actually show it here, Sean. So what we had done was we just did a simple Google Forms, which everybody can do. It's super easy. And I'll show you what it looks like. So on our Google Drive, we just made email addresses for each team that are collaborated with our office one. We created a form that looks like this. So this purple logo here in the corner is the Google Forms. I literally did this in a half an hour. It's not difficult to do.
Maybe.
So can you guys see it?
Joanne, sorry, it's not showing from your computer, but if I follow along with the template document you sent, does that work?
Yeah, but it doesn't show, it won't show responses.
Okay.
Can I try again?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to show how it actually shows the responses. So is it not showing? Can you see it now?
Yeah, we've got your screen now. There you go. You're on.
Okay. Okay, so this purple logo in the top left corner is the actual form logo that you want to look for, but I can share you mine and you can just change your own picture. So it gives you these questions. It gives you the option to email. I just got to move this over. Email the form to people. Click send. You can email it to them. You can click this link. You can cut and paste this link into a text message, social media, website, email, however you want to do it, and send it. It sends this exact form as a link, and they literally just fill it in. So they put their email address in, their first and last name. They answer the questions. I took all of these questions directly off of the BC government screening tool. So this one's multiple choice. They can choose more than one or all of them or none of the above. This talks about, do you have those symptoms? Yes or no? Have you traveled outside of Canada? Have you provided care? The disclaimer, if you have answered anything but no, you must call HealthLink BC and self-isolate. And then our consent at the bottom, which kind of gives the disclaimer that Williams Lake Minor Hockey and the arena have taken the measures to minimize risk, and that if you come, you have to do your part. So then they could click submit. That's it. It comes to us up here where you see responses. It comes to us, it shows me who's responded. Down here, it shows me who has not responded. Sean, that's okay. And it gives me this spreadsheet that shows everybody and their answers. I'm not sure if, can you guys see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that's simple. Now what we did is we made it accessible to every team. So every team will have their own, and then it just collaborates back to us. Otherwise, my spreadsheet would be massive every day. We're requiring that every single person that comes to an event at the arena or in dryland completes it within 1 hour of arriving to, more than 1 hour of arriving to the event. The team managers will track their own people. They can screen the ones that arrive late and haven't done it. Our only thing that we are looking to include is possibly one more question at the bottom that asks, down here, it has them sign their initials, so possibly the parent plus the player's full name. We may add one more question at the bottom to say, did anybody else attend, and maybe their names. We're going to use this as a tracking tool if there's an outbreak or if someone tests positive. This will be our official tracking tool. We're keeping it separate from the rest of the complex. So the arena staff are taking care of the pool and the gym, and we're taking care of the hockey players, and we're using separate entrances so that we can track who exactly was there. I believe we are only responsible to track our players, and then it's up to the parents to opt in if they were there or not. But with one more simple question at the bottom here, we could probably have them list all the people that are there if there's a parent or a sibling or someone else attending. And that's how we're doing it. And I think, honestly, I think it's going to work. I can't see it not working. We have just created a Gmail account for every team, pwe1 .screening@gmail.com, and every team has their own ID. So the managers will work with that, and all of the screening questions come onto my email for everybody, but the teams get their own. That's our solution to the whole screening process. We are not planning to take temperatures or anything because that is one of the questions. This is a legal document on the BC government site, so we're hoping that using the same questions will be enough for us. I do see that EPACT is going to do something similar, which is also an option. We just kind of want to have it more control of it individually with the people that are on site receiving the kids, being the managers and coaches. And that's that. Not sure how to unshare it, Keegan.
That's all right. Well, thank you, Joanne. We really appreciate that. And I think that the screening aspect is one of those steps that links us closer to our overall safety plans and delivering programming. I like some of the things that you've highlighted. One, that it ties into the government outline. So there's some consistency to what they might be seeing, as well as recognizing that facilities may have their own screening process as well, but that this is specific to the activities you're delivering, and that you did mention also it's for on ice, off ice activity, knowing that we may have a variety of different activities that it can be accessed for multiple versions of programming, as well as your approach to taking it to the team level for volume and administrative ease. It allows the teams to customize it to their own individual programming plans, yet you have the ability as an association to have that quick access to contact tracing. So obviously there are a number of tools out there that would serve as a similar mechanism, but in Williams Lake, Joanne and the association there have developed this tool, and we'll have the ability to share that template as she mentioned with you. So we'll have more details on sharing that. But thank you for sharing that. I know that we had a good discussion the other day about the usefulness of it and how you're going to communicate its use to your members.
One other thing I've just learned since we started sharing it amongst friends and family to try and get some data on there is that I can actually change a question live, and even if I've already sent it out to people, the new question's on there. So that link is live. Like, it's not like it's outdated or anything. I can change as many times as I want, and the actual link does not change. So it's pretty updatable if we're trying to inform somebody that they need to come through a different entrance or exit, or if something changes, it's able to be customized really easily. And yes, for everybody that's asking, we'll definitely share it.
I think that's important, important thing for you to have noted, because we'll see the entire process potentially evolve over periods of time as we enter into different phases and everything, and making sure everything's as relevant as possible is important. And I know that yours is designed to be an hour prior to activity, so people have the ability, whether it's on their mobile device or a computer from home or whatever, to enter that information in advance of arriving. So it's not something that's necessarily done right upon arrival, that the team management staff have an idea of who is participating that day, or if somebody is having to refrain from attending. Even though we know that there may be a checkpoint right at the facility from a facility standpoint, at least the program deliverers have that mechanism in place, so they can deliver the programming that day.
Sean, just had a question for Joanne.
Yes.
Joanne, it's Larry Hayes, Burnaby Minor Hockey. You had mentioned that you're setting up separate emails for teams. Now, I know a good number of associations are starting up having sort of rust removal, preseason ice, and teams aren't going to be actually formed and assigned for maybe a month or two. So I don't know if that's if you're addressing that in Williams Lake, or is that something you have thought of as to how you would gather information before formal teams and coaches and managers are assigned?
Yeah, we did. So I'm just going to take care of all of the preseason stuff and all the rep tryouts and everything until the kids are on teams. As it goes forward, I mean, however many teams will play in a day, I don't want to be the one tracking it. So once we get teams, the teams will take care of it. Right now, everything that we've done it for our executive even, because at this point, all those questions have to be answered. You actually have to ask the question every single time. Have you been out of the country in the last year, or has anybody that you've been in contact with in the last 2 weeks? I mean, all of that has to be asked every single time, and they either verbally or in writing have to agree to those answers. So they've read it. They may not read it, but they initial and they sign at the bottom, and that's the important part. Our arena, that's one thing I should say. The paragraph at the bottom includes the arena, and they ask to be included. It's not obviously not going to legally, take us off of anything if someone decides to sue us for something that happens, but it does give the people that they are signing, saying that they are aware that they are responsible for some of the contact and the social distancing that's required. It's only so much the arena can do, and he wanted to be a part of that, so we did do that. So it worked out great. The spreadsheet I wanted to mention, if we send it out by text, which we've done, and it's really fast and easy to do on people's phones, and they get it as a text. So for the people who don't read their emails, it still sends an email confirmation, but it doesn't show who has not replied. The email, that one page I showed that shows who's replied and who has not replied, that is only if you send it by email, because it's looking for that email. If you send it by text, you actually have to then assess who hasn't replied in your group. But that's the only hang up. I believe all the midget people are going to send it directly to the kids by text. They want them to be responsible as opposed to their parents. So that's sort of the one other thing. We're kind of letting the managers decide if they're going to use text or email, or how they're going to track it. So
prior to the teams forming, you're going to be sending, the association is sending this out to individual registered members. Is that correct?
Yeah, like we, well, it'll be to the group. Like you can send it out as a group email, right out of your normal email platform, because it's just that little link that you're copying. So if you're sending it out to all the referees or the whatever goalie clinic or whatever's going on, we send that link along and ask them to do it, and then we remind them the day before. But once the season starts, the teams will definitely be responsible for it.
And just to step in here too, keep coming. We've got a number that are coming in through the chat, and we'd actually ask if you do have questions on either what Joanne put forward here or any of the other two member presentations, to either put them in the chat function or feel free to email them to info@BC Hockey, and we'll make sure we get answers collaborated and either at the very least answered on the next member engagement, or we'll send out resources that follow up with everyone's questions, because that way we can make sure we're vetting any additional information we might need from anybody that's already spoken. So I want to thank Joanne again and Williams Lake. I know a number of associations have either started down this process or looked into concepts here for screening. I think they've come up with a very useful tool and something that can be adaptable, and we'll be able to share, as I mentioned, the template here for other people to take a look at if it fits their needs. So thank you again.
Can I answer one question? There's lots of questions, but I want to answer Aaron's because I think that's important.
Yeah.
So the actual spreadsheet that pops up with everybody's answers is it actually gives you, when you send the email out, actually when you set up the form, it asks if you want every single person who replies to see the statistics of that questionnaire. You don't. But if you use my template, it's set up to not do that. But it's one of the choices when you set up the template, because I think you can use it like a survey, right? Or a voting thing that will reply to everybody with the statistics. Ours is not set up that way. You actually have to have the email account password to get that spreadsheet. So it would just be the managers and myself that would have that. That was the only one. It is totally private. It's a Google, it's on Google Drive, your own personal Google Drive. It's not shared with the membership at all.
All right, so yes, thank you again, Joanne, and we're going to move along to our final guest speaker today here, and that's Scott Furman, staff member at Hockey Canada, who's the West Regional Director for Member Engagement. Scott is here to speak to everybody in regards to the seasonal structure resource document that was released beginning of July here that everyone's been working through over the last couple of weeks. He helped lead the staff and various member volunteers that were part of that task group through the process of creating the document. So we're pleased to have Scott on with us and appreciate his time to share a little bit of insight into the origins of that document and how it's meant to serve as a resource tool for everybody as we're taking these next steps through the return to hockey path. So we'll pass it along to Scott. Scott, if you're online here.
I am online. Sean, thanks very much. Can everyone hear me there?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Just wanted to thank BC Hockey and its membership for the opportunity, to join the call. Hope everyone is safe and well out in the western side of the country. Really, really interesting listening in to the information that's been shared so far, and would just have to say that it's really fantastic that the engagement and the sharing of information that's happening during this call and other calls and what's going on. I know with the challenges that we face, sharing and working together and doing this together is the only way to go. And so we're certainly approaching it that way from a national perspective, working with our members, and obviously really encouraging to see it happening with our local hockey associations as well. And that's how we're going to get through this so that we can get back on the ice safely for everyone. So really appreciated some of the things that I took away. It's the champions of minor hockey here on my screen. I can't see all the faces, but I know we have many of them, and it truly is. You are the people that make the game happen, and we appreciate your efforts. And I know the challenges that you're facing, and really, hopefully, we're here to support you in your endeavors. The teamwork engagement, things like the surveys that have been going out, the structure and plans in place, the tools such as the screening tool that was just shared, really, really interesting, so that we can all open safely, smartly, and again, the benefits of our sport for young children and families is really come out here in what I've listened to, and it's really, really encouraging. So just want to say I really appreciate everyone's efforts in listening in, and it's such a valuable experience to hear what everyone has to say across the country. I would want to note, and Sean mentioned, we did have a work group that worked on this for about 5 weeks to create this resource, and I want to thank our working group. We did have representation from across the country working with our members, and would want to point out Carol McGregor, who's a champion in BC from your area there. I believe she's on the call, and just want to thank her for her contributions to our work group and to ultimately to our final document. Getting into the document, I know Sean's bringing it up there, and we're not going to go through it. Obviously, it is a fairly lengthy document. Again, a resource for you, and so he'll sort of scroll through as we go, and we'll try and again cover the essence and sort of where we were coming from with this. I would again stipulate that it is a resource. Things do look very different across the country, and so we tried to approach it from a perspective where there could be some value for everyone, regardless of what your situation is with your health authority, the plans that you're working with, your facilities, and of course your member plans. So we tried to keep that general enough so that you could take value in it and implement some of these things within your seasonal structures, your planning, so that you can offer hockey what works best for you safely, of course. A couple of the questions that we asked ourselves was, what does the season look like? And what do things look like on the ice? Obviously, Hockey Canada has created a safety guidelines document, and there are a number of different measures public health authorities are engaging in, but we approached it this way to try and offer, again, some tools and resources to use as you ask yourselves the same questions as we get through the summer and start to plan. Some of the main points in the document would be obviously ensuring the safety of our participants, making sure, and it has been mentioned, and it's really good to see everyone's doing this, is being flexible and being prepared to be adaptable if things should change throughout the season or before or during. And the communication with all stakeholders, and again, encouraging to hear the communication that's happened with facilities, other associations or organizations that you maybe have worked with in the past or have not, but collaborating and sharing together. That's another really a big feature, a big thing we discussed, and of course adhering to the health authority and member guidelines. So those are some of the main points of the document. As we get into the document a little bit, we started it just with a seasonal planning section that really we hope to put everyone in a mindset for things to consider as they start planning their season. Things like the customer experience, and again, that would be certainly a survey or asking your customers what they're looking for, what they need. And I think we found this nationally, sometimes surprising information when you think one thing and you hear another from your customers. So really important. The communication and education with members, collaboration, being inclusive, all things that really, I guess, at any season we should be thinking about, but maybe more importantly than ever, really consider these things as you start to develop your own plans, what works best for you. We then sort of moved into the on-ice delivery component, and again, knowing that Via Sport has its return to sport plan. Across the country, there's a variety of different plans and phases and things like that. We approached it nationally, sort of more what's happening on the ice. And so we developed obviously 4 stages with return to ice, which we're currently in many parts of the country, a return to practice, where contact may increase and a little bit more group work, things like that, a return to play with potential modified gameplay and adaptations, and then return to regular competition, which may or may not be possible in some parts of the country this year. So we approached it from that perspective, again, keeping it general enough and not wanting to confuse, I guess, our associations and members on how this differs from their own plan, but hopefully that everyone can see where they're at nationally in terms of what's happening on ice, regardless of where they're at in their own plans. With the return to ice, and I believe BC Hockey is kind of in that right now. I know things are changing very fluidly, but we obviously created, with the help of our development team, Appendix A, which has a number of different on-ice setups, drill progressions that are a tool for coaches and associations, everything from what equipment you may need to how to set it up, to the number of skaters, to the number of coaches, and different sequences of drills that can be done regardless of how you may break down the ice. So hopefully that's a good starting point for a lot of associations, especially in the return to ice phase. As things progress, you can still use similar setups and have a little bit more flowing drills and things like that. And certainly, again, this is a framework, and it's not the be all and end all, but certainly a resource for your coaching staffs and your associations to use as you develop plans to get back on the ice. The return to practice phase, really important point, I guess, on that one, as if allowed and you start to get more kids on the ice and contact is increased a little bit more competition drills potentially, the utilization of the Hockey Canada network, again, is really key here in a couple ways. Obviously, we've got thousands of drills and videos now important to share with players or parents so they can see how drills are done and modified to ensure distancing if that's required. But also in terms of sharing practices and practice plans, you know, to avoid meeting in person or avoid that time before practice or on the ice, going through drills. It's a really effective way to share information between the coaching staff, but not only that, to the you know, the parents for players that are of younger ages, or to the players themselves as they get older. So just really encourage everyone to take advantage of the network. If you go on the website, I think it's up there now. You know, there's certainly some information you can get from BC Hockey on how coaches can obtain that, and it's really reasonably priced, free at the younger ages at U7, U9, etc. So really, really good resource. As you move into return to play, that's where there'll be likely a lot of differences across the country. You know, you may have public health authorities or facilities limiting the number of people on the ice and the stands. There may be other asks to limit contact during gameplay and things like that. So we've tried to provide some considerations and, you know, some potential adaptations that you could use. I think the big one there is communication and making sure that whatever decision an association makes in terms of their gameplay, that, you know, officials and stakeholders, coaches, parents, etc., understand what's happening on the ice, why, and how that's going to be communicated. The last stage, return to regular competition. Again, even if the competition is the same and travel increases and things like that, which may or may not be possible, obviously our safety guidelines and the guidelines by the health authority will still be in play and likely to be in play for a long time to come, ensuring the safety of our participants. So that's essentially our, you know, our stage, our 4 national stages. And again, hopefully it's not confusing for everyone. Hopefully, you know, if things change mid-season and you need to go from a return to play scenario to return to practice or ice, everyone can understand where they're at in the scheme of things there, and, you know, understand the resources available to them. The next section with the document talks a lot about seasonal structure. And the one thing I think that came across really strongly from our work group, and hopefully everyone's familiar with it, is our Canadian player pathways. And we have released, and the links I think are right up there now within the document on our website, the full sort of revised or new looking versions of the U7, U9, and U11 pathway. Those are the full pathways. And I think what's important is that we noted is that the principles within those pathways and not rushing things, ensuring there's appropriate time for players to acclimatize, to develop, to get on the ice and, you know, work on their skills prior to forming teams and getting into league play, and all those things are really, really important. And I think sort of paramount now as we, you know, again, return to the game safely and smartly. So we'd really encourage the promotion of the Canadian player pathway principles. That's something that came strongly from our work group from coast to coast to coast. In addition to and one other thing I'd say about that, even though the U13, U15, 18, you know, pathways are not officially adopted or in play, we did include information and recommend that you certainly could still promote those principles. And towards the back of the document in Appendix B, we've laid out a number of different scenarios in terms of seasonal structure and in terms of a development section of the season, a prep section, a regular season, a playoff or tournament phase, if games and or tournaments are allowed. And we do that right all the way up to U18. And we note the number of the percentages for the season, the number of different practice sessions, etc. Again, keeping in mind, these are guidelines. For example, in any regular season phase, you may or may not be allowed to have tournaments. But what the principle behind this is that seasons can be segmented. And even if you have from a 32-week season there on the screen now, and if you scroll down and you decide to have a mini season, or you can't start a season and it's going to be 16 weeks instead of 12, the principles behind what we've developed in the pathways can still be utilized. And so hopefully that comes across in our seasonal structure section of the document. Again, each association, each member will use this in accordance with what's required and what they see as best, but hopefully a resource for you. In addition to that, you know, in the rest of the section, we talk about a lot of different considerations with team formation and facilities, and maybe just a different way of thinking of things, partially due to requirements because of the situation that we're in, but just a way of thinking on what's the best experience, what's the most positive experience, and what's the most consistent experience, you know, we can all provide to every player, every participant, and the coaches and officials as well. So the rest of the section really provides those considerations. And again, there's nothing mandated in there, but hopefully you find some valuable information you can consider and share. The final part of the document is in regards to registration. You know, some are planning for reduced, some are thinking there's actually going to be potentially an increase. We're not sure, but I think you know, things to consider in there to ensure accessibility for all. You know, we've included our refund policy, which I think many of you may have seen in a previous circulation, but just important to communicate to parents and families so they know what your policies are should things change in the middle of the season and the programming that you're offering maybe is a little different than what they registered for. But it also is an opportunity, I think, for all of us to kind of work together and modify things and share and improve and listen to best practices on how we can make the game more inclusive, more accessible for all. And one important point before I talk about a few additional resources to come yet from Hockey Canada is, again, it's super important that, you know, everyone has the flexibility and adapts programming. So if there's an outbreak, your customers, our members, our parents have assurances that there will be adjustments made and their children will be able to still participate in some fashion, and just being open and communicate with everyone on that, and potentially maybe even having registration for certain segments of your season if that works for you in your own area. So just different options, different tools, different resources, and maybe an overall different mindset that we can all take. And again, it will look differently across the country, but hopefully this is one of the pieces, along with all the other information shared today and that will be shared, that can help. I would talk about a few other additional resources. We have a coaching task team that's working hard right now and is close on releasing some additional information specific to certification, different things like that, and some additional resources. Our officiating guidelines will be ready this week, I believe, and they're also considering information on certification of officials. So I know lots of you are wondering what's happening with coach certification and training and officials as well, and that information is to come. And one other important piece as well is, I mentioned our safety guidelines document that was created earlier in the summer, and there will be an e-learning safety module developed. It's approximately 12 minutes, sort of summarizing the safety guidelines from Hockey Canada and important considerations to make sure we all create a safe environment for our children. And this will be a module that's free of charge for anyone. So obviously we'll work with our members in ensuring that that information and how to access that through eHockey and links through websites, etc., is available. The date, I believe, on that right now is August 15th. And again, I think it's a good opportunity, in addition to team officials, coaches, administrators, in that parents can also, if they're curious or wondering what different things are happening, that they can also take that module and have some comfort in knowing that we're all doing everything we can to ensure that our children are safe as we come back to the sport. So you'll definitely get some more information on that a little bit closer to mid-August. And of course, BC Hockey will be great in sharing that with you, so you can get that out to your members. And I'll just close with, you know, ultimately Hockey Canada's goal here, we're working with our members, and it's to support you and to support our members and our associations and provide whatever resources and tools that we can, so that ultimately we can return safely and provide a positive experience for all our kids. And hopefully this is one piece that does that. Certainly always look for feedback, and if there's additional information, you know, you need questions anytime, work back through BC Hockey. One of the things that's been great in my role as an engagement director is the communication and collaboration with our members. And it's, again, really great to see it with the associations as well. And we're here to help, we're here to support. We have lots of challenges ahead and we don't know what it's going to look like, but hopefully together we can make it happen. So again, I just want to thank BC Hockey and thank everyone for your time and listening. If there's anything we can do or any additional information we can provide, we're always here to help. So thanks very much.